Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Monday the 9th of November comes to you from the Canary Islands, where I've escaped for some winter sun. So we start by looking at the dollar. Of course, the big news over the weekend was Biden winning the election, although there's some debate as to whether there's going to be contentiousness with that. But the interesting thing is that markets are seeing what is already being dubbed a Biden bounce. Not so for the dollar, though. We're seeing the dollar sinking lower. And what was looking like a bottom is now coming under pressure with lots of downside targets. So this Biden win is actually seen as weak for the dollar. That means that the euro is looking stronger. We're sitting at 118.70 this morning, and it's now looking like we could break out of this flag pattern and make new highs. And the yen, we're seeing the dollar against the yen down to 103.50, so that's really falling away quite heavily. Sterling sitting at 131.40, so again that weaker dollar having an impact, and against the euros, sterling holding the 110 level, still looking pretty good over the last few months, but much more parity there than with the dollar, of course. Bitcoin sitting at $15,300, so it's still bullish on all three time frames, looking pretty bullish all round. The S&P 500 had a very strong week last week. We see here the weekly candle, and of course the big question is now, can we break to new highs? That would remove these downside targets. So we have lots of upside targets, so the market is still bullish on the long and medium term charts there. And if we look at the Nasdaq, similarly, we had a very big candle week last week on the US election, but we do still have the downside targets hanging over us. We need to make new highs to avoid those. Looking at the futures today, we've got the S&P future at 1.4%, the Nasdaq E-mini up 2%, so it looks like a strong opening in the US, and the VIX volatility is back below 25, so we're seeing that fear index really falling back, so markets are becoming much more positive about the US election being over. The FTSE future is up 1.5% this morning, the DAX in Germany is up 1.8%, and the CAC 40 in Paris is up 1.5%, so seeing European markets looking strong. Japan looking much stronger here. The Nikkei 225, this is the 400, the Nikkei 225 making new multi-year highs, 21-year highs. And looking at the Hang Seng, we're also seeing a big move there, and so starting to look more positive. Chinese stocks were up nearly 2% as well, so we're seeing pretty much across the board pretty good recovery. India making new highs, that's very significant, and the Aussie market up 1.75%, also just looking stronger, although it still has a lot of work to do to get to new highs. Gold sitting at 1958, so it's well and truly got above the 1900 level. Bouncing on the cloud here on the medium-term chart, the long-term chart still looking stellar. If we can make new highs, we activate a target all the way to 3000, so that will be very significant for gold. And if we look at silver, we also see the chart looking much better here now too. US 10-year yields are sitting at 0.81%. We've had a lot of volatility in the run-up to the election last week, but we are just seeing those yields strengthening. We do have a short-term downside target, but yield prices have generally been rising for the last few months. Looking at the energy mix quickly, we've got Brent crude up this morning 1.85%, so that's looking stronger. This lower low, though, is a worry for the medium and long-term picture. We just need to wait and see what the 1-minute charts present. We've got targets in both directions on the 60-minute chart. The same is true of WTI. Of course, we're following a similar path there, just breaking down, but we do have an upside target yet to be activated. So Nat gas is in a clear downtrend with downside targets on all the charts, so it's actually looking pretty bearish for the week. Taking a look at coal, we see here on the coal chart we're sitting at 53.90 at the moment, so that's significant as well, and we're just seeing that really testing those lows, so we just need to watch that. But we've got upside targets. It's a bit of a mixed picture there. The big one, of course, for the week will be emissions, and here we're just pushing higher, looking like we're making that higher high. So emissions favoring the upside at the moment, but we've got targets in both directions, not activated on the 1-minute chart, so we just need to see how that plays out. UK gas holding its long-term trend, but on the shorter term trend we are breaking lower, and the same on TTF. We are still bearish below the cloud here, and we do have downside targets, and the same with winter gas. We're seeing that below the cloud as well. The big one will be German power this week, looking a little bit better for recovery, and we've got targets, multiple targets to the upside. We might be just hitting some resistance, but it's looking set for a better week. And looking at Nordic power, that's looking pretty grim. It's making new lows, both the CAL and the quarterly contract with downside targets, so that's going to be quite key. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.